This is the briefing for Friday, June 26th. Today was a very interesting day in the stock indices, and I'll get to that. But first of all, I want to talk about where the market has been and where it appears to be going. These are 60-minute charts of the spiders, the Qs, and the IWM representing the Russell. You can see now this for 4 trading days, 1, 2, 3, 4 trading days, the market has basically been in search of where value is. When we see these rotational patterns like this, and you can see the same thing right here, a little bit different variation, and then the same thing with the Russell, a little bit different variation from the other two as well. It basically suggests that neither buyers nor sellers can gain control of the market, and they're unsure of whether value is going to be higher or whether it's going to be lower. And then you get probes. You get probes above and below the ranges. You can see the probe here, a couple probes right there. You see the probe here. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. This was a spike right at the close that's really due to a volume spike at the close, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But one of the things I'm starting to see is, previously, before we saw this correction here and here, I was seeing weakness in the market internals, which suggested the potential that we were going to see some type of counter trend rotation or some type of move to the downside. That's what we got here. Then we got another bounce back up. And then we got another move back to the downside once again. Now you can see this is basically one all rotational period that goes from May 6th, the first part of May, up and through the end of June, which is pretty close to today's trading. So it's going to be important to see what happens from here. Now, as I said, during this period prior to this move and this move, I talked in the briefings about the fact the internals were weakening. It suggests that this was not going to be another breakout move, and it came up and tested. We actually had a double top right here, and then we got this move back to the downside again. But now volume has been increasing slightly, which is unusual for a rotational pattern. And you can see that it's fallen off as the market has come down into this area, testing this 723 area. Now that could be significant, because that means basically that sellers are waning, and that potentially buyers are going to see that sellers are not strong enough to see a breakout move, and they're going to step in and start to buy. 52-week highs minus 52-week lows improved slightly over the last couple days. But look at breadth. Now, we were looking at breadth. I was looking at it like this going into, now if you can watch the crosshairs, this move here was a divergence suggesting weakness and coming into the market. We have the opposite now this week, because you can see what's happening with breadth as we've come into this move here. To the downside, breadth is beginning to strengthen. Now it's not great, it's 784 in the NYSE, but you can see that it is strengthening, suggesting the fact that this move may be coming to an end on lower volume and strengthening breadth. Net volume, we got a spike in net volume today, but I'll get to that in a minute also. The Qs, basically we have the same thing. We have a rotational pattern from the beginning of May through today's trading, not quite testing this lower extreme at the 687 area, but once again we have volume that's falling off as we came down into the low to today, and we have breadth that's beginning to strengthen. Just watching the crosshairs as I move the arrow through the market breadth, you can see what's happening in terms of prices falling, but breadth is beginning to strengthen. And once again, net volume strengthened in today's trading also. Same thing occurring in the Russell. This is the IWM. You can see that volume is basically flat. It was lower over the last couple of days, ticking up slightly in today's trading. But once again, the divergence in breadth is there and is increasing. 950 shares positive at the close today. Not anything to write home about, but still important. for today's trading and for what we might be seeing in the coming week. So you can see that for this week, the market has been strengthening internally, which is very, very interesting, especially since it's a market that is unsure whether value is higher or lower. But I think, when looking at the internals, I think, they do pretty well in predicting when a trend is coming to an end, potentially. We don't know the degree of that rotation or that counter trend rotation that develops until it starts to develop and we can analyze it. But it certainly gives us the pretty good indication that it may be coming to an end. And the downtrend that we're seeing in the S&Ps and the NASDAQ, certainly, at least this week, the market has been coming to a pretty good strengthening period. It'll be interesting to see if that continues on Monday. Now, one thing I want to point out is that next week is a holiday week. We have the 4th of July. I think it's on Saturday. So as the week goes by, more and more traders and funds will be taking off and doing less and less market trading. So it's going to be important to recognize that and to realize that volume is going to be lower as we go through the week. In terms of overbought and oversold, you can see that we are basically neutral still, but now we're beginning to move. And this is a sign that the internals are strengthening also in the NASDAQ. So the fact that we're beginning to break out of this neutral pattern that we've been in for the last 3 or 4 days, it does suggest that we are going to see potentially some additional strengthening in the market. Now, looking at volume, this is volume in the NYSE, this is volume in the NASDAQ. And look at the spikes in volume. Now, what I did a little bit of research, what I found was that the Russell is rebalancing today. So that means that funds have to rebalance also. So they have to sell and then buy at the same time. And they do that right at the close. And there's a mechanism in the exchanges for them to do that. So we got a skew today, and you can see up volume certainly being more aggressive than down volume. So this really isn't helping us in terms of our analysis of the strength or weakening of the market in itself, other than the fact that if you look at that, this is today's, but if we look at what's happening here, you can see this little bit of an increase of up volume coming in on the NYSE over the last couple days. But look at the NASDAQ. This before we get to the volume spike today. Look what's happening with up volume or net volume in the NASDAQ. It's been increasing as well. And finally, I want to look at the percentage of stocks above the 20 and 50-day moving averages. Now, this is, I think, pretty significant. Look at this rotational pattern. The spiders have been in, but look what's happened during that time period. The number of stocks above their 20-day moving average and 50-day moving average has increased. So there is definitely a strengthening coming into the market, at least at this point in time. This is the NASDAQ, and you can see a little bit of strengthening coming in here. Now, longer term, we could draw a trend line this way, and it would suggest that that still there's weakness there, and there is, but that weakness is becoming a little bit less and less with each passing day. Same thing with the 50-day moving average. A little bit different here. It's still more of a downtrend, but we're beginning to see some type of move to the upside. And then with the Russell is completely different. You can see, look at this move here, about the percentage of stocks above the 20-day moving average and the percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average. So all in all, it does appear that while we've been in a rotational pattern, that the internals of the market are beginning to strengthen, suggesting the potential that we may begin to see some type of a move outside of this undetermined value that the market is in for the last few days, and see some type of move back to the upside. Now, with that said, I have to qualify it with the fact that if anything happens to the price of oil, and it spikes again, I think this market is going to turn and the internals will turn with it. So really, we're dependent on the peace in the Middle East holding and no spikes in oil prices over the next several weeks to see that this market may begin to see some type of recovery from the rotational pattern that we've been seeing like right through here. And hopefully maybe we'll see this rotation all the way back up and then potentially a breakout to new all-time highs. Have a great weekend, and I will pick this back up on, well, I will not on Monday. I'll be traveling on Monday and Tuesday of next week, so it may be Wednesday before I get to do another briefing. If anything spectacular happens, I will, of course, send out a briefing, but it will be in writing. I will not be able to record it. Have a great weekend.